Okay, so let's get started. We have a few powerhouses in the room that represent different verticals, from social to e-commerce to news media. And we're talking about a really interesting topic, which is how we're pivoting our strategies as marketers, as growth marketers during COVID-19. Want to introduce our panelists first and foremost. Alessandra Sales is a VP of growth at Ipsy. She defines the strategy, vision, and roadmap for Ipsy's paid and organic growth. She's previously VP of marketing at Smule and brings over a decade of experience in marketing and acquisition. When she's not running marketing teams, she enjoys outdoor activities, cooking, and spending time traveling with her family. This is off script, but Alessandra, where are you going to travel after COVID? I'm so, I'm so curious.
Yes, I already had to cancel 2 of my trips, so I think I'm gonna go home and see my family first, and then I have a trip planned to Argentina, which I'm really looking forward to.
Okay, that's great. Lomit, so I'll introduce Lomit next. He's the VP of Growth at IMVU. Well known in our industry. He's a public speaker, author, advisor. He's responsible for user acquisition, retention, and monetization at IMVU. He has managed and executed growth strategies at several early stage startups, which have all exited, including Roku and Trusted ID. Last but not least, Claus Enevoldsen is the VP of Growth at Flipboard. He leads growth in BD. He spearheads a team that drives user growth and retention, and he has led growth at Texture, which was acquired by Apple. He's focused on driving subscriber and rapid revenue growth through cost-effective acquisition strategies. So folks in this panel have a real level of knowledge when it comes to strategies, and I do want to first begin by asking each, starting with Alessandra, each of the speakers, pre-COVID-19, what was your typical growth strategy for your specific audience and in your specific vertical?
First of all, hi everyone. Thanks for inviting me here. Yeah, let me give a quick intro of Ipsy, because I see a lot of male faces in the audience. So I just want to make sure that everybody's familiar with the company. So we are the largest beauty subscription box in the United States and Canada. And our model is a subscription business, and we mostly focus on growth and new user acquisition, as well as both for for paid users and through word of mouth and variety. Sorry, I'm a bit distracted because I have my daughter in the background. I hope you don't hear her shouting. And yes, so our pre-COVID-19 strategy actually hasn't changed that much from our post-COVID-19 strategy. So we still, when it comes to growth, we still focus a lot on paid user acquisition, mostly on social media. And post-COVID, we started experimenting a lot more with the other different channels, like, for example, TV and connected TV and linear TV. And then there's still a lot of focus on organic and referral programs and word of mouth.
Perfect. What about you, Lomit? What were you? How did you kind of scale pre-COVID-19?
Sure. Well, first of all, hi everyone. Really excited to be here, and thanks Vicky and all the Feedmart team for having us here on this really timely and interesting topic. So what I would say for us, just for people that don't know about IMVU, we're like one of the largest avatar-based social networking app, and primarily, our growth strategy encompasses all around paid user acquisition. Primarily, that's where we invest a lot of our efforts in, and then outside of that, we do a lot of things around organic and virality, and then beyond that, we're always doing a lot of like experiments and A/B testing around the whole user funnel across the entire user journey to try and figure out how we can get better and smarter about increasing our conversion rates to get users to take the actions that lead to our best lifetime value customers. So pre-COVID, COVID-19, and post-COVID-19, pretty much the same as far as our strategy. The big difference has been just reacting to the marketplace, which in our case, has become a much better place to acquire users more cost effectively, primarily with a lot of the bigger brands that have pulled out. So, we've changed our approach as far as just trying to figure out how much more can we continue to spend in this current environment to acquire users, because we don't know when things might potentially change. And so we're just trying to take advantage of the current market dynamics.
Perfect. Claus, what about news media? I think it's you have an interesting business model. Would you love to share that with the audience?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I'll also say hi everyone, and thanks for joining. We're 8 weeks into this new normal. I don't know if I'm in Zoom hell or if it's Zoom heaven. I haven't figured that out yet. By the way, how many times have you heard "you're on mute" when you've been on a Zoom call? It seems to happen at least 5 times on the calls I'm on. Anyways, I work at Flipboard, and just to give you a little bit of background on Flipboard, it's a content experience. It's one place for all your interests. So you can download Flipboard, the app, and you can go in and you can customize it based on your interest. There's over 30,000 topics you can choose from on Flipboard. And then you can go deep with your passion. You can flip through the experience and you can consume articles and videos. And in addition to that, we are our users and our publisher partners, we allow them to curate on Flipboard, so they can flip stuff into a magazine, a packaging of content that they can share with our audience. And so before COVID-19, that is sort of directly tied to our growth strategy. The way that I think about growth is that it's really a basic equation of growth happens when you can retain users and retain them longer, and it happens because you can attract new users. So if you think about that basic equation, then we retain users, and I focus a lot on retention. We retain users by having a product market fit where we ensure that users are sticky. So if we can get them to curate on Flipboard and invest in our platform, they stick around longer. And on the acquisition side, we use, the same thing, curation. We allow users to share that outside of our platform, and that then attracts new users, it generates SEO, and that then is something we can acquire user from. It's growth loops, and I'm happy to go deeper with that later today. And then the other big growth strategy we have on the acquisition side is through partnerships. So, we team up with carriers, with OEMs, and other strategic partners that could benefit from our experience, and we can then syndicate our experience on their behalf. So that's sort of like the two main things, is like it's organic growth through growth loops, and it's partnerships is how we grow.
Great. Would love to tease out the things that you all had mentioned post COVID-19. So we'll start with Alessandra again. Alessandra, you had said, the thing that we're doing is we're focusing on different, more creative testing, right, in your organic channels. Can you tease that out for the audience?
Yes, so and I think we're one of the few companies out there who've been lucky enough to be doing really well during these difficult times. Right? So with a lot of brick and mortar stores being closed, of course, e-commerce and DTC companies have been really successful. So that gave us more opportunity to test and also really take advantage of the current landscape where a lot of big advertisers are pulling out paid spend on digital as well as offline channels, and so that allow us to test with very, very low CPMs on a bunch of different channels that we would have not tested otherwise in a normal year. And so and then when it comes to organic strategy, I think we're just using the same techniques and the same strategy that we were doing pre-COVID-19. They're just I hate to use these words, but like on steroids, right? So a lot of people are using social media and they're spending much more time on social media than ever before. And so, and they do have more time to shop online. And so everything that we've been doing when it comes to, you know, offering them convenient way to replenish their beauty products, such as, you know, shampoo and conditioner and face cream and body mask, etc. You know, offering them a convenient way to shop for top brands and top products at a great value. It's just been like a really, really good way of acquiring new users and also increase the AOV of our existing users. And so I guess we're trying to ride that wave as much as we can. And we hope that, you know, with all the big events that really, you know, can change and impact the history, and I think we are experiencing one of them, like we can really change user behaviors. And I think a few more weeks of this situation and a lot more people who were not used to do purchases online, they're gonna kind of shift their behavior. And I think we're gonna be in this sort of life and scenario for many more months to come until hopefully we'll have a vaccine. And so I think that's really an opportunity for all, you know, DTC companies, e-commerce companies, and all, you know, companies that they have and they sell real products to shift that consumer behavior. So I think we're in front of a great opportunity here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm gonna ask Lomit and then Claus follow-up question, but I did want to say there is interesting reports that are coming out right now. So AppsFlyer's recent COVID-19 install and budget tracker are seeing an overall uptick in e-commerce over the past few weeks. I think when COVID-19 first hit, right, people were focused on other things, not necessarily shopping, but now the new normal is we get everything online. So I totally agree with you. Talking about, so Lomit, you had mentioned earlier, people are really consuming social apps, which is true. In a recent branch post, they saw a spike in activity about 100 to 150% above normal in social video, hyperlocal social networks, and gaming. Can you talk to us about how this has increased kind of usage in your business and how you've capitalized on that post COVID-19 with your teams? Nope, Lomit, you're on mute. Lomit, you're on mute. You're on mute.
2 times already.
You know, it's weird. I'm trying to unmute and it's not letting me unmute. So anyway, I think I made Claus put the bug in or something, talking about this unmute thing. You know, just kind of stopped me from unmuting. So anyway, what I was going to say is, you know, for us at IMVU, one of the things that that we've noticed, and it's not just us, you know, as you mentioned, with all the other social networks, one of the things that's really come out of this whole stay-at-home shelter being put in place is we've all lost that human connection, right? So we're kind of looking at other ways to try and find that connection. And the way IMVU has been built, potentially as a social network, you know, it provides that kind of outlet for people to connect. So what we have actually found is we've seen a huge surge of organic users coming into IMVU. Primarily, you know, a lot of word of mouth has been happening, where people are sort of telling other people, hey, let's connect on IMVU because it's kind of a fun place to create like different virtual worlds. Because one of the things people want right now is an aspirational life in terms of what are the good old days, right? Because obviously the current isn't where people want to sort of be stuck. And so on IMVU, people are creating a lot of these virtual aspirational lives, similar to the questions that you had asked, like, you know, what's your favorite vacation? So people are creating these vacational worlds that they want to visit and inviting all their different friends. And so what we've been doing, you know, so my challenge has been primarily on growth. There's a couple of things that I need to balance. One is server capacity, because, you know, just like a lot of other companies, we've seen a huge surge of organic users coming in, and the challenge is, you know, we don't want to, the last thing we want to do is to have the service go down. So, as we continue to, and we've added a lot more capacity to accommodate for that. So part of it was balancing, not bringing in a lot of new users initially till we could build up the capacity to handle the volume of the users we were getting. And then, when it comes to new user acquisition, something that, we had invested in a couple of years ago has really helped us out today. And the plan is to try and automate as much of the process around UA buying as possible. So instead of relying on like potential team members needing to move a lot of dials and react to what's going on, we have an AI machine that does all of that UA buying for us and helps us to execute a lot better, faster, and smarter. And the machine's able to react based on what's going on in the marketplace to come back and tell us that, hey, potentially based on current market dynamics, you could spend X amount more and still hold and hit your KPIs. So, that takes a lot of the guesswork out of, how we've been doing the UA side. And then the other part, is, we've what we've changed post COVID is now that we've noticed this big surge of users coming in, we wanted to go back and reach out and do a big win back campaign to users beyond a certain window. Like we used to do win backs and re-engagement to users within like 30 days, but now we've really expanded that window out to maybe like a year plus to try and go back and remind a lot of people that knew about IMVU to try and come back and explore kind of the new features and benefits that we have that they might have been familiar with. And so we've seen a lot of old and former users coming back as well, which has been really beneficial for us.
Very, very cool. Very cool. So now shifting off to news. So I'd love to get Claus, your point of view on what's going on with media consumption from your end, right? You talked about stickiness, making sure that there are growth loops. I think that in the age of, right, people downloading stuff for free, how are we monetizing that, right?
Yeah, I mean, so for Flipboard and in the media world in general, we've certainly seen a dramatic increase in both activations and engagement on Flipboard. And it makes sense. First of all, users want to tune in and see what's going on with COVID-19. They also, in our case, want to tune out and dream about that next trip, and you can do that. And what's also really, really encouraging is that, because the way this comes back to our product market fit, because of the way that Flipboard is built, is like we allow our community to create magazines and curate, packages of content. And we've seen our community and our publishers step up to the plate and actually create content around here, like package. Here are your the best board games for you to use in shelter in place, for example, or whatever it is. So we've seen that happen too. Another trend that we're seeing though is that while we throughout March saw that increase in engagement, we can already see now that there is already some sort of news fatigue or reader fatigue. And so, the high of what we saw, we are certainly coming down from that. And so what's really important for us is to stay focused. We can't look at the situation we have right now as a strategy. It can be, in our case, be a tailwind, but it's not a strategy. So what we talk a lot about these days is like, what is the engineered growth that we can have? What is it the growth that we can actually control and we can accelerate both in this time, but even more so after we come out on the other side? A couple of trends that I want to highlight there, or like rule of thumbs that we're looking at is like, first of all, I think this is a perfect opportunity for all of us to you sort of get a hall pass. What is true and tried that might have worked before, but it might have been your cash cow. Now it's not working all of a sudden because of the new situation. Well, you have an opportunity now to rip off the Band-Aid and take a fresh look at your company's strategy because you get that hall pass. We have certainly done that. We looked at our Q2 plan and our second half strategy, and we tossed it all up in the air. And when it came down, we looked at like, well, what of these company strategies are future-proof? what will help us? What can we accelerate now, and what will help us when we come out on the other side? And it has forced us to cut projects that were sort of on the edge, but because we had capacity, they were just part of the plan. But now you have a chance to strike them from the lift. The other trend that I think is important that we're really leaning in on is like, how can you find growth strategies that lifts all boats? So rather than me having an acquisition strategy that just benefits us getting new users, how can I do that while also making money, right? So if you can find strategies that are lifting not just your own department or your own silo, but it actually lifts all boats in your company, whether it's cost savings in engineering, you know, from server side, or it's monetization through partnerships and revenue generation, you know, what can you do to help those things?
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah, I love that. We're going to shift now to more like paid versus organic strategy, because all of you have kind of touched on that. But I do want to go ahead and open up an audience poll just to make this a little bit more interactive. So Arshpreet, if you could open up our first poll before we segue into paid versus organic growth, that would be great.
Cool. I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll for you guys.
Thank you.
I'll give you guys about 60 seconds to answer.
Yeah, so we'll just wait about a minute. Yeah, I'm really curious what folks are more focused on. Okay, you can go ahead and wrap up the poll, Arshpreet, and share the results with our audience. Okay, so interesting. People are going through paid, but they're still going through organic as well. In order to, and you know, of course we can, my second question as a marketer is like, what's the segmentation of this audience? What verticals are you in, right? But assuming that you're in the verticals that are winning from COVID-19, folks are probably going ahead and using paid. All right, so let's shift then to organic versus paid. I want to start with Claus, because your business model is very interesting. You focus on partnerships, you focus on organic, and then I want to talk to Alessandra and Lomit to just wrap it up and figure out what is your LTV modeling strategy, you know, through paid. But Claus, let's start with you. How can you better advise the marketers that are in the room to leverage things like the growth loops that you're talking about? Can you tease that out a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, maybe we just start by defining what they are. You know, we're all growth marketers in here, so maybe you already have the concepts, but just a reminder, like there's basically two types of growth loops. There is engagement growth loops and there is acquisition growth loops. Engagement growth loops is the concept of you get the user to invest in your platform. For Flipboard, it's really two things we ask them to do. Personalized by picking topics, that's an investment. And it's asking them to add articles to their own magazines. So we get them to invest in the platform. When they've done that investment, then you can take that ingredient, so to speak, and you can reward them. If you personalize, you get a better experience. That's a reward. If you flip articles into your magazines, people can comment on them and you can get social rewards. And now you can then trigger them with notifications or emails for them to come back. So now you have an engagement loop that increases retention. On the acquisition side, it's sort of combining the two. So now you've got users to invest in your platform. Well, that is fuel that can attract new users. So for example, if they curate into a magazine, that magazine can be shared outside of Flipboard and other users can experience that. And then they become curious about Flipboard and they get acquired, they become magazine curators, and it's a virtuous loop. So that's why growth loops on both sides of that are so powerful, because if you can create those effects and get the flywheel turning, it's a cost-effective way and a scalable way of growing your platform. So we invest a lot in that. One more thing I want to say. So I talked about lifting all boats. So now we just announced something called storyboards, which is a new form of curation. Instead of a magazine, it's like a finite collection of articles. Well, now I'm going out and looking at partnerships and you know, how can I get publishers to not only curate articles in there, but maybe we can put commerce in there. Maybe we can actually generate some revenue together, which creates an incentive for them to share it to their audience, right? Because now they're also making money. So the more you can tie these things together, you can both achieve growth and revenue growth.
Great. Super interesting. Want to shift over to, we talked about organic, but let's go ahead and shift over into paid. Alessandra, with respect to things like LTB modeling, I think that's super interesting right now, right? What are signals marketers are looking for? We traditionally, we look for ROAS and customer acquisition costs, but should we be optimizing for something different right now? Should it remain the same? What are your thoughts on that? Oop, Alessandra, you muted.
There you go. It's my daily. I think these are very interesting times, and I think when it comes to a paid strategy, of course, like you need to keep looking at your CAC. You need to. I think it's gonna be harder to project your ROAS curve because we don't really know how these users they will regain in a few weeks from now or in a few months from now. So, I mean, my suggestion is what are some early signs and some early signals that can indicate the quality of that particular user. I would say when it comes to organic traffic, it can be a little bit different. And we've been talking with you guys and Lomit about it. We're like, we're not really sure who these organic people that they're coming onto our site or in the apps are. But at the same time, like for paid, we're also like tapping into a new set of people, right? Like CPMs are going down. We said a lot of advertisers are pulling out of the major social media channels. And so the number of impressions for the advertisers that they're still out there and spending and investing on growth, they've been, doubled, tripled. And so who are these new users? It's hard to say. At the same time, 8 weeks in, if a user is bringing in revenue, it potentially means that they are interested in your service and offering, and B, they still have some disposable income to invest on your product or service, right? So just look at these early signals. How well are they retaining your app? How well are they responding to your offering? And then try and draw a new curve from there. When it comes to e-commerce and when it comes to Ipsy in particular, we've been looking at the very first couple 2, 3, 4 weeks of retention. So how many of these people they've been canceling their subscription after the first bag got delivered to them? How many they cancel even before that first bag delivers to them? And then just try and project that curve over time. So that would be my suggestion for the audience. Just try to look at early signal and don't wait for that ROAS 7, ROAS 14, 21, because it might be too late at that point. Because if things look good, then you might want to double down on your marketing spend. If things look unsure or not good, then you might want to optimize towards that CAC and not overinvest in your marketing.
Interesting. Just before I get to Lomit, I mean, I do want to say that TechCrunch recently reported that mobile app spending will still double by 2024 despite COVID. So even though, just advertising prices, we see this across the board are going down with regards to digital performance, right? I mean, people are on their phones, right? We're trying to better understand our user behavior. We're seeing a surge in it. Lomit, do you have anything else to add?
So the bad thing about going last is most of the answers get given out, right? To me. But what I was going to say, we're actually fortunate that most of our revenue goes into calculating the lifetime value comes from in-app purchase. And it's really helped us because especially as people know, if you're on the UA side, it's really good to be in the market right now because CPMs and costs come down. But if app is based on monetizing on revenue, then it's not really a great time to be because your AV is going to be coming down consequently as well. And so, for us, we do the same things that, in terms of kind of early signals, but we also try to calculate LTVs looking at different cohorts. So right now, with organic users, we look at different cohort for paid users, but we all the same signals like, how they behave and interact in And that kind of goes into helping us to predict how LTV is going to be based on the early behavior and actions that they're taking in the app.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So you broke up a little bit, but just to summarize, it looks like you're focused on the geolocation in the United States, right? I mean, people are more folks are staying at home, so you're targeting them, and it looks like you're optimizing for the action of subscribing rather than just purchases, correct?
Right. Yep.
Okay. Just wanted to reiterate that for the audience because you were breaking up a little bit. All right. So we have time for question and answer. I'm going to go right to Q&A just because we're running out of time. Wanted to ask, okay, so there's a lot of questions, which is great. So thank you, Arshpreet, for collecting all of our questions. Okay, let's start with Claus. For Claus, where do you see news apps going in the next 5 years, and how do you believe users will continue to consume news? And what advice do you have for mid-senior marketers who are looking to get stakeholder buy-in to fund these particular types of initiatives? Interesting. Okay, so this is specifically for Claus.
Well, let's start with the first part. Like, where do I see news experiences go? Like, I can talk for us and trends in general. We are certainly looking to create more holistic experiences. Flipboard traditionally have been very article focused, but we see that shouldn't be a surprise to people, but there's a lot more video consumption. There's a lot more audio consumption. I talked to one of my contacts in the industry. They saw in the podcast space, they saw a 35% growth, over the last, 4 weeks. We believe if you want to go deep with your passion, it's a multimedia experience. And so I think that's going to be much more, there's going to be a lot more consolidation in this space. If you look at if you sort of article, video, and audio is kind of fragmented right now. And I think you're going to see a lot more consolidation there. The other trend that you're going to see from the media industry in general, and this is accelerated with what we're going through right now, is that content creators are forced to find multiple revenue sources, right? All the ad-supported businesses out there are hurting right now because of what we're going through. So they have to find future-proof monetization where you can get more revenue out per user. How can you do that? Well, there's a couple of things you can do. You can lean in on commerce. You can lean in on premium, pay for content, which is more and more accepted. And you can lean in on new forms of advertising, right? It doesn't have to be display ads. That's a thing of the past. So you're going to see publishers become much more savvy about how they monetize the users that they have.
And the follow-up question, actually, since we're running out of time, maybe I can go. We'll do Lomit, then we'll do Alessandra, and then we'll go ahead and go into our breakout rooms. Okay, Lomit, what advice do you have for mid-senior marketers who are looking to get stakeholder buy-in to fund either paid or organic initiatives? So this is kind of like a career leadership question.
So what I would say is this is actually a great time to try and sort of prioritize and front load some of the projects you might have in your product roadmap that's going to be helping you on the organic or the paid side. We've definitely done that. This is the time where every company is in potential crisis. Even if things are going well, there's a potential crisis, like how can we keep this party going? And if they're not part of the party, the question is, how can we rebound and turn the business around? So I feel, if you want a growth team, this is the time to speak up and put out and champion some of the ideas that I'm sure every growth team already has that they wanted to prioritize, and you run into the same challenge about trying to project. This is to really and put those ideas out there. I'll give you an example. With us, growth is projects as we're sitting around a while. The last 6 to 8 weeks, we would get app to both French and German, and we're doing the same with a whole slew of other countries that localized last year, but it didn't prioritize. Just the fact COVID-19 happening and all of this organic growth that we were able to prove that that's already coming from these markets, you know, we were able to repivot the whole product roadmap. And you know, I feel that, you know, as long as you can make, you know, ultimately it always comes down to three things. Can you make a case where you're going to either save the company money, or you're going to help them make money, or improve productivity by getting more things done with less? If you can tie any of your projects down to those three goals, for the most part, especially now, you know, you've got a good chance of trying to make a case and get it prioritized.
Perfect, perfect. And I think that I had another question that came from another marketer about just what does it mean, because we have to cut our costs now. How can we prove value? And so I think, Lomit, your answer also speaks to that particular question. Okay, Alessandra, I'm going to wrap it up with you. So I was going to ask everybody this, but I'm going to ask you. This is related to team management and what's going on with COVID-19. Want to end on a positive note. Do you have any general advice for marketers out there that are trying to learn or trying to grow, but are shaken by this time right now, right? I mean, it's not an easy time. We are seeing layoffs and budgets being paused. What should marketers do amid COVID-19? What do you think?
Yeah, so I think for those of you who are in companies that are flourishing right now, I would say just try and be as creative as possible. This is once in a lifetime opportunity for you to test out new things. Really, like, try out anything that you think might might really move the needle for you and for your company. So just don't be afraid and test new things, because, you know, if your company is doing well, probably the CAC and the ROAS that you're seeing these days, it's you know, again, it's once in a lifetime for your company. So just don't be afraid and test out new things. For those of you who are you know, in verticals that unfortunately they're struggling this time, and perhaps you have to pause your paid spend, then just you know, again, try and be creative on the organic side of things, like how can create a virality, and also just try and learn as much as you can, right? Like I've seen people even in my own household that they're taking on you know, online classes and trying to learn new skills, etc. So I think that's a wonderful time for us to really pause and rethink what we want to do with our careers, how we want to improve ourselves and the company that we work in. So I think it's wonderful that we can you know, take this time to rethink really what we should be doing in the next few weeks. So take advantage of it, because it will end before we know it.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that with us, Alessandra. Thank you to our audience. So thank you for sticking with us through this growth panel, and certainly a big and warm thank you to our panelists who took the time out of their busy day to join the community and share the learnings that they are experiencing right now through COVID-19. If you have any suggestions on future topics, please go ahead and email marketing@feedmob.com. Feedmob team is always here for you as far as feedback and certainly improvement as we run these sorts of experiences in the future. So thanks a lot. Have a great day. Go out and enjoy the sunshine and live your best shelter-in-place life.